Naka-live ko.
Sige.
Bali, nag-live na namin. Hmm. Ano pa naman ni, ano yun eh. Igugulat.
Tawag ko po sa MC.
Oo, mga advice ko. 30, 25. Pwede naman mas maaga.
Good afternoon, everyone. We will begin in 5 minutes. Again, we will start our event in 5 minutes. Good afternoon, everyone. Before we begin, just a few reminders. Please get settled and make sure to keep your microphones on mute to ensure that we do not disrupt the program. Please also make sure to fill out the Google form to confirm your attendance on this program. This will be our guide to help us distribute the certificate of attendance and participation in today's activity. You can also scan the QR code flashed on the screen for your convenience. Again, if you've just arrived, kindly fill out the attendance sheet to ensure that you are able to receive your certificate of participation after the event. The link will also be shared in the chat box for those of you who cannot scan their QR codes. As we begin our activity this afternoon, I may invite you all in prayer to be led by Ms. Nea Monton, our fourth year BA Psychology student. This will be followed by the Philippine National Anthem.
Let us all remember that we are in the holy presence of the Lord. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. God of light, you are our reassurance even in the most difficult moments. You are our path whenever we feel lost, and you are our strength whenever it is hard to go on. Please shine on us and let us have hope when nothing seems to make sense. Let us bask in your light, especially when the way seems too bleak. Give us courage, especially when we will need to follow your steps, and lead others, especially our daughters and sons, closer to you. All these we pray in the name of Jesus. Miriam of Nazareth, teach us your ways and lead us to Jesus. Amen.
Tumayo po tayong lahat at sabay-sabay nating awitin ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiliw, pero sa silanganan, alam ng puso, sa dilim mo'y buhay. Lupang hiniram, gulong ka ng mag-ibig, sa manlulupi, di ka masisingil, sa lahat ng bulok, sa sino at sa lalim mong babang, may ginagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang isang ng matawag mo'y tagumpay na nagmilingin, ang bituin at araw ng kailan pa may madilim. Lumay ang araw ng 100% langit sa piling mo. Ang bayan ng pagpay magkakabit, ang mga na'y ng dahil sa'yo.
Good afternoon, HEU. I am Ms. Danny Reyes, the Testing and Research Coordinator of the HEU Guidance and Counseling Office, and I'm honored to be your host this afternoon. Before we officially start, I'd like to remind everybody of the house rules. Kindly mute your microphones as you enter your Zoom. This is to ensure that we do not disrupt the speaker as she delivers her talk. Please turn on your camera if your bandwidth allows to ensure that only those invited are present. Please note also that this talk is being recorded and the recording feature for other students is disabled. Only recording by the office will be conducted. This is to document the whole thing for the office and to ensure that students who are not able to attend can refer back to the video that will be posted soon. Should there be any information about the documentation that you want to refer back to, you may get in touch with your assigned counselor via your Knoller email. For deaf students, kindly pin Ms. Ritz Jose as your assigned interpreter. And if you do not want to be included in the recording, you may opt out of the video and audio participation at any time. So again, I hope that the house rules are clear. Let us now begin this afternoon. I think a lot of students are very curious as to what this topic is today. This is our second enrichment talk for the school year with the theme called Growing Up and Out, Surviving a Breakup. So we appreciate everyone who has been able to make it this afternoon with us. I know that some have come from their classes. So we really appreciate you making the time to be with us here this afternoon. It seems like it is a season of breakups yet again, not just romantic ones, but also platonic ones. Not only romantic partners are falling out, even friendships that we thought would stand the test of time are also failing. So through this enrichment talk, we hope to provide an explanation for why these kinds of endings happen in relationships and what we could possibly do to cope with the loss. So to welcome us this afternoon, may I call on our supervisor of the HU Guidance and Counseling Office, Dr. Maria Lourdes Chavez. Hi, Doc.
Hi, Danny. Thank you. Welcome, dear students, and welcome to our speaker, Miss Arena. Your name is like my daughter's name as well. So I remember her closely this afternoon. Today, we gathered to explore relationships no? Especially with the theme, growing up and out, surviving a breakup. Now, why do we have a topic on relationships at this time of the year? Usually, the guidance office offers talks on relationships during February in time for Valentine's. But the talks offered by the guidance and counseling office during the school year are really to respond to the needs of the students. This stage of your life as adolescents, you thrive through relationships. So we will not be talking, as Miss Dani said, about romantic relationships, but probably all kinds of relationships. To be able to say that we have a healthy well-being, all three factors, according to psychologists, must be flourishing. So we have physical, psychological, social. But what if you have not developed the skill of forming high quality connections because of the pandemic, because of the current blended mode of learning, where there are really not many opportunities to learn how, or just because of personal circumstances that have prevented growth where this is concerned. So this is the experience of many students now. Thus, the talk at this time of the year. We seem to have a long way to go where social well-being is concerned. Therefore, we also have concerns related to mental health because of this. This is what we want to address. Our speaker will delve into insights on how to harness the power of endings, whether in friendships or romantic connections, to pave the way for new beginnings and personal growth. So let's begin. Miss Dani?
Thank you so much, Doc Chavez, for that very insightful introduction to our session this afternoon. So, as Doc Chavez mentioned, usually our talks this time of the year are not about relationships since we save it for February, but you can't really schedule endings. Sometimes they're abrupt, sometimes you really don't see them coming. Sometimes you've just been stalling for quite some time, waiting for things to end and fall apart. Hopefully, this afternoon, our speaker gets to equip us with a skill set, knowledge, and even insights as to how we can cope with something as natural as the end of a relationship. May I now call on Ms. Sarah Mariamonte, our counselor for first year and fourth year students, to formally introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Miss Dani. So allow me to introduce our speaker for this afternoon. Our speaker this afternoon is a registered psychometrician who pursued both her bachelor's and master's degree at the University of Santo Tomas, where she graduated with flying colors, cum laude in her undergrad and summa cum laude in graduate school. Ms. Balbuena's master's thesis or RABIT program, the mediation of excessive reassurance seeking and perceived social support in attachment anxiety and depressive symptoms among emerging Filipino adults, was awarded Meritus Mus, the highest distinction for a thesis or dissertation. In 2023, she was a parallel presenter at the 59th Psychological Association of the Philippines National Convention in Legazpi, Bicol. In June 2024, she was an oral presenter at the 11th Asia Pacific Conference of the International Association for Suicide Prevention in Bangkok, Thailand. Currently, Ms. Balbuena is an instructor at the University of Santo Tomas, where she teaches understanding of the self and personality development to undergraduate students from different colleges. Please join me as we welcome our speaker, Mrs. Irina Balbuena.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. So thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. So I'm honored to be here today, to be invited to speak to around 185 right now na participants. So just a brief introduction, I guess, of paano ako na-invite. So Miss Dani is actually a really good friend of mine from college. And then, yun nga, nasabi naman ni Miss Maria Monte yung background ko with my thesis. So I really hope that this talk will be really helpful for everyone. So let me just share my screen. Can I confirm po if visible naman siya on your end? Okay, thank you so much po for the confirmation. So, again, thank you for being here. I know the afternoon, medyo antukin na tayong lahat, but nonetheless, I really appreciate your participation and your interest in this talk. So, my talk is about navigating the ups and downs of breakup. So, before I start, I want to give the objectives so that I can set your expectations. So, the first one, of course, is to provide to the best of my abilities, a comprehensive understanding of how this happens in this specific stage of life. Since Miss Danny said a lot of you are around 18 to 22 years old. So around young or emerging adulthood na talaga yung stage of your life. Number two, to raise awareness about the challenges and complexities of navigating whatever kind of breakup you may be experiencing, especially in this stage of life nga. And then the third and the fourth objectives is more on the equipping you guys with the tools or perhaps practical strategies that can really hopefully help you out in the future or if it's happening in the present. And lastly, to inspire personal growth and resilience. So our agenda for today is divided into 4 parts. So the first 2 parts is more on the immediate aftermath, or rather the before for the first part and the immediate aftermath for the second part. So, and the third and the fourth parts of my talk is ito na yung mga tools or strategies that you may be able to use talaga for the process of healing. So let's start with the rationale, I guess, of why relationships in general, not just romantic but also friendships, are really important in this stage of life. Again, emerging adulthood is around 18 to 25 years old, according to research. So for psych students here, I'm sure you guys know the wonderful Mr. Erik Erikson, yung kanyang psychosocial theory of development. Diba, dun sa young adulthood stage, one of the most important developmental tasks is to find and maintain close relationships talaga. Kasi we're starting to really become independent, from our family. And they're really providing us with really good sources of emotional and practical support, companionship, intimacy, and they have a huge part also in the development of the self. So I really like this one Tumblr post that I saw that says, it's like, I am a mosaic of everyone I have ever known and loved. So that's why malaking factor talaga ang close relationships in emerging adulthood. But during this stage talaga, we're also very busy individuals, diba? We have to balance so many things. We have our school or career, thinking about our future, even our families. Of course, we're thinking about the future of our families. You have your own personal goals, financial goals. So those so many factors can really affect how relationships can more or less drift apart. So according to research, makikita natin dito, about a third of young people really report breaking up with their romantic partners in the last 2 years. And by the age of 18, most young people have experienced at least one romantic breakup. So basically what this is just showing is it's somehow a very normal, yet of course painful experience during this stage. That's why I really like that you're having a talk about this, kasi siguro before sa generation namin, when we think of talking about, romantic relationships, people will think it's just cheesy. But, it's good to talk about it in a scientific way also, because this is something that's really common. And I want to point out also the last point is that in our local crisis hotline, this is a data from NCMH, the third most reported problem from our callers dito sa Philippines, from aged 18 to 30-year-olds are actually love or relationship problems. So can you imagine around 80,000 plus callers? The third most frequent na topic is about relationship or love problems. So that's why it's really important to talk about this. So let's go to the first part, the science behind breakup. So let's explore muna the common reasons for the relationship dissolution. So firstly, for platonic breakups, the first one is conflict, changing interests, and that's really common, especially you're growing, you're learning about yourself more, and pwedeng nagde-drift apart na because of your dissimilarities in your values or interests or even attitudes. External factors also. Siguro some of you guys are from the province pa, and then you had a solid friend group in high school, but eventually you drifted apart because you went to different colleges. Some went here to NCR, some stayed in your province. That's really a huge factor in the breakup also of the friendship, and lack of effort. But usually when we talk of platonic breakups, it's not as direct as sa mga romantic relationships. So most probably friendships just drift away, or maybe one party withdraws, compared to romantic breakups talaga na more direct. Okay? Let's go to the common reasons. Ito na yung more on the romantic breakups. So this is from a Western point of view though. But the first one is loss of romantic affiliation. So pwedeng nagkakaroon ng frequent conflicts na talaga, or boredom also is a huge factor for some people. Or yun nga, nagkakaroon na ng dissimilarities or incompatibilities with your values or your goals in life. Lack of intimacy also, and communication. These are the top two, yung may asterisks. So pwedeng you don't meet each other's expectations na in terms of closeness or intimacy. There's also the sexual dissatisfaction, infidelity, which is really, really difficult. It's a whole new pain to experience this kind of reason for a breakup. And desire for autonomy, so for some people, after getting into a relationship at this age, they realize maybe this isn't cut out for me right now. Maybe I should have more priorities in life, kaya nagbe-break up. And sometimes also inequity. So pwedeng the person that you're dating is not from the same socioeconomic status as you, and that could cause some rifts talaga. So let's see naman yung common reasons for breakups also from an Indian sample naman to. So in cultural terms, mas malapit siya sa ating culture na very collectivistic. So let's see, number one is incompatibility, which is almost the same with the first one, yung loss of romantic affiliation. And boredom also, cheating. Sadly, these are really common reasons. It seems like it's a universally common reason talaga to experience. And long distance relationship also, which is something I can relate to since my fiance and I are in a long distance relationship, but we're not broken up. Okay? And family or peer disapproval, which is a huge factor talaga in our culture, diba? If our parents don't like the person we're dating, sometimes they will do some things talaga to break you up. Okay, so those are the common reasons for emerging adults or young adults. So let's try to understand first yung mga relationship dynamic in the context of theory. So one of the leading theories that talk about romantic relationships is what we call the attachment theory. So baka alam nyo to, for some psych students, by John Bowlby. It's under psychodynamic. According to John Bowlby, early childhood experiences with caregivers shape our internal working models of the self and of others. So the first 2 to 3 years of your life, the quality of care that you get during that stage can really set the tone for your future relationships. So were your caregivers really responsive to your needs? So were they able to give you your basic needs? Or were they lacking in warmth or responsiveness? Those things can really affect how you first view yourself. So do you view yourself as a worthy person? Or how you view other people? So do you think they're reliable? Do you think they're available to support you when you really need it? And this view of the self and of others is really something that you carry on throughout your lives in your future relationships. So how you perceive, how you expect or behave in relationships. So when you were a baby or when you were, a child, your primary attachment figures, of course, are your parents or your caregivers. But during the emerging adulthood stage, more likely than not, nata-transfer yung primary attachment figure na yon into your romantic partners or close partners or close friends. So, yun nga, in emerging adulthood, romantic relationships become your primary source of attachment. And at this tendency of how you view yourself and of others is shaping one's attachment style or orientation. So this is basically the pattern of how you act and react within one's close relationship. So let's try to see what are the three na most popular romantic attachment styles. So the first one is the secure attachment. So these are the healthy people. They have a very positive view of themselves. They view themselves as worthy. That's why they can regulate their emotions, their feelings effectively. They're comfortable also with being alone. And they have good coping and problem solving skills. And they also have a positive view of other people. So they're more likely to really trust and to empathize, to be compassionate with their partners. They're comfortable with intimacy. And thus, they usually have a very healthy, committed, and satisfying close relationships with romantic partners or friends. But on the other side naman, we have the insecure attachment styles. So we have the two general. So the first one is the insecure avoidant attachment. So from the word itself, these people are avoidant. So they are afraid, or rather they do not want to feel dependence or closeness with their partner. So they see themselves positively, they see themselves as worthy, but they see other people in a negative manner. So they don't think people are reliable. So you can see from the memes here, they are very telling of the behaviors or the tendencies of an avoidantly attached person. So as soon as they feel like their partners are clinging too much or they're getting too close for their liking, they will most likely leave or detach talaga. Why? What made them this way, kumbaga? So usually these people experience parents or rather caregivers that are more or less unresponsive to their needs. So they probably weren't given the right amount of basic needs, or their caregivers really lacked warmth, maternal or paternal warmth man yan. Perhaps they were a little bit emotionally distant. So as a child, you experience that. You think, oh, these people were supposed to love me or care for me, but they're not. They didn't do it when I was a kid, when I needed it the most. So they carry on that perspective that people, even though they were supposed to care for you, are at the end of the day unreliable. So they repress their needs for connection. And that's why they have low anxiety and worry about rejection and being unloved in relationships. So on the other side naman, we have those with more anxious attachment. So ito naman yung exact opposite. So they very worry intensely about abandonment, are less trusting, and have higher emotional expressiveness and impulsiveness. So these are the people who kind of read between the lines a lot or jump to conclusions. So for example, your partner texted you and then there's no emoji sa good morning. mga anxiously attached individual, they will immediately think, oh, they're probably gonna break up with me soon, or oh, I probably did something wrong. Or even in general, if the partner is feeling a little sad or tired from something not related to their relationship, an anxiously attached person will most likely take that personally and read between the lines. So their actions and tendencies could really lead to self-sabotage. And according to research, in the context of romantic relationships, they're actually the loneliest among the three attachment styles. So those are the three attachment styles. We also have to understand that the separation process with our attachment figures in the emerging adulthood stage, it is our romantic partners now, our close relationships, are usually happening in three stages. So what are these three stages? We have the first stage. So let's say you broke up. The first stage is the protest. Ito na yung emotional sequelae na tinatawag natin. So maybe 1 minute you're crying, the other minute you're angry, another minute you're just in disbelief. But during this stage, there's the desperation, there's the intense yearning for the person who broke up with you or you broke up with. So ito na yung very vulnerable stage, the first stage. The second stage, ito na yung from desperation, it goes to despair or sadness. So the protesting stops, the yearning stops, or the enduring preoccupation stops. And you're starting to really give up on the thought that your partner will return to you. So, kumbaga, this is the start of the acceptance stage. And then finally, the third stage is more on when you're really starting to let go. So there's the detachment now from the previous relationship. Perhaps there's the reorganization. So before it was really painful, but now you can see things in that relationship more objectively or have a different opinion of your ex. Maybe may forgiveness na, or for some people, just acceptance. So dito na yung you're really starting to let go. So those three stages, the different attachment styles deal with these three stages in different ways. So for those with secure attachment, they deal with these three stages fairly smoothly. So they still grieve for the relationship. Of course, that person is an attachment figure to them. That person was their safety blanket. But they're able to face these breakups with greater resilience, acceptance, and emotional recovery. Kasi nga, they are able to really regulate their emotions and they're also comfortable with being alone. So they don't need to be too insecure in the breakup. However, for those with the more avoidant tendencies, they go through the first stages really quickly, like in the blink of an eye. So they move straight na to the reorganization and detachment stage. So there's the absence of grief. But according to research, it's not really them not feeling. It's more of them just really suppressing or avoiding thinking about it or feeling it altogether. So they never really get to process the relationship. That's why they go straight to reorganization. But again, it's more than possible that they really haven't moved on because they really didn't process the relationship. And then we have those with anxiety, more on attachment anxiety. So these people naman are the complete opposite. They stay in those first two stages for a longer time. So parang they have this chronic yearning or grieving period. So there's the prolonged protest stage talaga. And of course, that makes sense because they really have a positive view of others and a negative view of themselves. But the problem is, once the breakup starts and they really fear rejection or abandonment, they lose their safety blanket and they lose a sense of themselves. So literally, it's like they lost a part of themselves. And that's why they take it the hardest, basically. So the breakups. But according to research, for some, mga may more milder or moderate levels of attachment anxiety, they can actually use that breakup for as a catalyst for personal growth. So how? Ano yung process? So, di ba nga, they have a negative view of themselves, so they don't view themselves as worthy people. So, most likely, they will engage in self-blame. And this self-blame will urge them to think about themselves, think about the relationship. So, the intense self-reflection happens. So, what did I do wrong in the relationship? What made it work out this way, etc., etc. So, yung mga questions na yon repeatedly in their head. Plus, they also have an intense fear of future relationship failures. So, talagang traumatizing yung breakups for these people. They have a really intense fear of rejection. So, this can push them actually, together with the intense self-reflection, to process that relationship and to make positive changes in their future relationships so that they won't be left again. Compared to those with the more avoidant tendencies who just suppress, they don't let themselves feel or think. So they don't really get to process, they don't really get to clarify what needs to be done in the next relationship to make it work this time. So that's why parang mas may chance yung mga may attachment anxiety to really learn from the previous relationships. Okay? And then we also have possible sources of conflicts due to communication. So for context, I got this one from Dr. Gottman. They actually have him and his wife actually, si Dr. John and Julie Gottman, they have a website. It's called the Gottman Institute. I really love that website. So they've been studying relationships and marriage for more than 2 decades, if I'm not mistaken. So this research really comes from a long, long time. And according to them, there are 4 tendencies or behaviors that are the greatest predictors of breakups and divorce in couples. So he said that once these patterns starts to really arise in a relationship, and wala kayong masyadong positive interactions as a couple, then it might be the start of the end. To the point where he actually called it the 4 horsemen of relationships. Because I think this is in relation to depicting the ends of times sa New Testament sa Bible. So according to him also, in order for a relationship to be special or to work out, there has to be the magic ratio when you're going through conflicts in a relationship. So the magic ratio is 5-1, which means for every 1 negative interactions, which I will talk about in the next slides, which are the 4 horsemen, there should be 5 positive interactions within a conflict. So what are these positive interactions? So being interested with each other, active listening, you find opportunities to agree with each other, and of course, the making up. So again, for every 1 negative interaction, which I will talk about in the next slides, there has to be 5 positive interactions. So what are these 4 horsemen? These are divided into 2. The first 2 are more on the active behaviors. What are these? So the first one is criticism. So criticism is not merely voicing a complaint or offering a critique. It's not, hey, you didn't wash the dishes today. Criticism is more of you really attacking the core of your partner's character. So you can see the example. You never think about others. You're not forgetful. You didn't forget to wash the dishes. You're just selfish. So there's a certain attack there, and it's quite toxic. But the second one is, according to John Gottman, the worst. This is the most telling of a breakup happening. So if there's the presence of contempt, this is when you don't just attack the character, you really become truly mean. You use mocking, ridiculing, mimicking, eye rolling, very, very toxic behaviors. And contempt really arises from a long-term resentment. Kumbaga, you're at your wit's end. And there's that feeling of superiority that you have, you feel like your partner is inferior. That's why you don't respect them enough to deal with it head on. So you guys can see the example. You're tired, go cry me a river. I've been working all day and all you do is play games like a child. Could you be any more pathetic? But it's very hurtful. Parang it's like very thorny. It pricks at you if you hear this from a partner. And then we have the next two. So these two are more on responsive behaviors. So the first one is defensiveness. It's a typical response to criticism. But it doesn't just arise after being criticized. It's something that can happen even without it. But you know, we're humans when we're being criticized. It's more or less a normal feeling to want to defend yourself. But in the context of a conflict, this can really be bad since you're not really hearing your partner. You know, you're not really trying to take accountability, and it really won't allow for any healthy conflict management. So what are the types of defensiveness? You can either reverse the blame. You can see in the first example, you're the lazy one here. You haven't even cleaned the bathroom since last week. Kahit na your partner just said, you forgot to clean the dishes, kunyari. So you reverse the blame. The second one is playing the innocent victim. For example, your partner said, oh, you didn't wash the dishes today nga. You said, oh, you're right. I can do anything right. I'm just an awful partner. I shouldn't even be here. So very manipulative sad boy yung approach, diba? That's for defensiveness. And then the next one, we have what we call the stonewalling. So this is usually a response to contempt. And it's an attempt to self-soothe. Diba when you're overly stimulated or kumbaga, may sunod-sunod na atake, of course, you're gonna shut down to some degree. You're gonna want to just calm down, get yourself together. But the problem with this tendency is that you're not saying what is actually happening to you, to yourself in your current state. So on your partner's end, it may look like you're shutting them out completely, or everything that they're saying to you is falling on deaf ears. So what is stonewalling? You basically just shut down. You tune out, you turn away, you act busy, you engage in obsessive or distracting behaviors. So you just basically clam up as a person. So those are the 4 greatest predictors of the start of the end of a relationship, according to Dr. Gottman. And then we also have one of the rising topics na sa research about young adults is the impact of social media or technology in one's mental health and in one's relationship. So the first concept is what we call the technoference, coined by these guys. So technoference is basically interruptions during couple time. For example, instead of going on a good date, or kunyari, you guys are friends lang and you want to just enjoy hanging out. Instead of doing that, you're just on your phone, going through your IG or TikTok, just sending each other reels. I mean, that's a whole new different bonding experience. But iba pa rin yung quality if it's an in-person couple time or friendship time. Diba? So that's for the interruptions. And then the second one is what I really want to focus on. They call this in research the interpersonal electronic surveillance. So basically, this behavior is when you constantly monitor your partner or your close friends' behaviors sa social media or through technology. So this behavior can really increase your anxiety, encourage obsessive behavior, justify other intrusive behaviors, fuel retroactive jealousy, and undermine open communication. So let me give an example. Let's say Caitlin. Sorry, because I just watched Arcane. Caitlin is feeling a little extra insecure today. She's feeling like she wants a little reassurance from her partner. But instead of trying to talk to their partner saying, hey, I think I need a little more reassurance, or I need maybe a little more couple time today. Let's go on a date, let's reconnect. Instead of saying that directly to their partner, they go on their partner's social media na lang. So they don't have to ask anymore. They go on their social media to find evidence that their partner still love them. Diba? And then the next day, Caitlyn is still feeling insecure. So you stalk them again sa social media. You stalk their IG, you stalk their TikTok, maybe they liked something that will make you feel better. And then after this becomes so normalized on your end, you wake up, the first thing you do is you go on your partner's social media to see if they like someone's post, they followed someone new. It became a part of your actual morning routine. Or, if they like a post of someone they told you not to worry about. So, nagiging obsessive behavior na siya, as you can see. And then this behavior becomes so normalized that sometimes, Caitlyn would go to desperate lengths, like going through their partner's work email or student email. Maybe they're talking to their side chick through their work email para di sila makatch. Yung mga ganong thoughts. That normalization of those behaviors can justify other intrusive behaviors nga and fuel retroactive jealousy. So basically, more or less, some of you have heard of this term. Retroactive jealousy is when you become jealous of your partner's past, even if they don't really directly affect you. So for example, if you get jealous of their partner's past fling or something. So what fuels retroactive jealousy? It's usually when your sense of specialness is threatened. So if you continuously monitor your partner's social media, this can really be bad because it will threaten your sense of specialness as a partner. And it can become this toxic cycle of always checking and feeling bad. And this could also lead to resentment, diba? And of course, undermine open communication. So can you imagine Caitlyn went all through all those great lengths when she could have just talked directly to their partner saying, hey, I need some extra reassurance. I need some extra couple time so that we can reconnect. So that's why monitoring your partners consistently in their technology or social media can be bad. Why? Because all healthy relationships really need boundaries. So those are the part one, talking about the science behind the breakup. So what usually happens in the relationship dynamics that can affect that can lead to the breakup. So let's go to the second part. Let's say you guys broke up already, or you withdraw as a friend. What are the common reactions, whether it be emotional or physical reactions, that are really common in this stage? It's like the hell week, diba? In terms of the emotional reactions, these are common. Grief, very common. So some people actually see relationship dissolution as a form of death. It's a death of a relationship, death of your dreams, diba? Death of your shared goals. That's why it's really normal for you to go through the stages of grief. And that includes sadness, anger, relief, minsan, confusion. Why did it happen? Even in changes in eating and drinking habits. So sometimes you stress eat, or sometimes you don't have any appetite to eat at all. Rapid mood swings nga. 1 minute you're angry, the next you're feeling incredibly sad. 1 minute you're relieved, the next minute you're confused. So it's like you're oscillating back and forth among so many emotions. Why? Because these people were your primary attachment figures. They were your security or safety blanket. And now that they're gone, your sense of security or safety is threatened. It's a normal reaction to that. And according to research, the most intense emotional distress occurs shortly after the separation. So that's like the hell weeks or hell months, but decreases significantly within 6 months. So I'm not saying that if after 6 months you still haven't moved on or medyo stuck ka pa rin sa protesting stage, that you're abnormal or that you're never going to recover. What this is basically saying is that our minds and our bodies have that natural tendency to move towards recovery. So there's the temporal nature basically of emotional recovery. And that's why it's really important to uh practice patience and self-compassion during this period because there is no set timeline or checklist in healing. What are the common physical reactions naman? So I'm by no means a doctor. I didn't study, the anatomy side of things. So these are all purely from research. I just copy and pasted it basically. Increased blood pressure, elevated stress hormone, which can disrupt your sleep and immune system function, cardiac contractile abnormalities, literally you there is really a negative thing that happens within your body because of a broken heart. So they call this stress cardiomyopathy apparently. And endocrine and immune system dysfunction, serious medical conditions including cancer, hypertension, and heart attack. So these are all very severe, severe, diba, physical symptoms. And that's why it's extra important for you to really take care of yourself, both emotionally and physically, during this grieving period. Okay? Now, to talk about those common physical and emotional reactions, perhaps it's also good sometimes to reframe a breakup as a form of attachment trauma. So this isn't trauma like in the context of an actual disorder like PTSD or acute stress disorder. It's not in that context. So attachment trauma is just a concept that's not necessarily medical or pathological in nature. But this is a form of trauma that occurs when there is a break in the bonding process. So, 'di ba, when you're feeling unwell or distressed, it's normal for you to seek out your partners for comfort, for safety, and protection. So it really follows that if your attachment figure is gone, your safety is threatened. And adults really do seek out romantic partners to fulfill similar needs for security as children seek from caregivers. So if we think it's normal for children to grieve and cry when they're separated from their parents, why should we think that it's not normal for young adults to grieve and cry also, to go through that painful process when they break up? So that's why this kind of behaviors or these common reactions should be normalized and should not be condemned. So yeah, those are the common physical and emotional reactions in the context of a breakup. Now let's go to the part 3 and 4 of the talk. So this is more of the practical side of things now. So you went through the hell week or hell months. You went through all of those feelings. Maybe you got sick once or twice because you cannot stop thinking about it. What can you do to really start the healing process? Okay? The first one is mindfulness. So mindfulness is not just meditation or yoga, okay? It's not just those kinds of practices. This is as simple as directly observing your thoughts, your emotions with an attitude of openness and acceptance, with the automatic or impulsive attempts to change or avoid them. So it's just basically letting yourself feel and think, but also judging the truthfulness of these feelings or thinking. So you have to pay attention to your thoughts and what they're telling you. Kasi usually when a breakup happens, you are kind of forced to really reflect on your own shortcomings minsan, 'di ba? So it's easy for some people to fall into the trap of just having thoughts like, oh, I will always fail at relationships. I can't even keep this one. I fumbled this one so bad that I shouldn't be in future relationships because I'm awful. So those kinds of thought process, you have to catch yourself before that becomes ingrained in your long-term view of yourself. That's why you really have to pay attention to these thoughts and try to reframe it or refocus it on more on the positive side. For example, what you learned from that experience. And you also have to let yourself feel. So I really like this quote from one of the most controversial books, yung Call Me By Your Name. So we rip out so much of ourselves to be cured of things, but to make yourself feel nothing so as not to feel anything. What a waste. So the more you suppress, you might think for this moment, maybe I shouldn't just let myself feel, maybe I will move on quicker if I just suppress these emotions. You won't, because you won't be able to process what really happens. And the more you suppress your feelings, the more it will come out in uglier ways. So it's like a jar that shatters because of too much pressure inside, diba? A jar that shatters, you will most likely hurt yourself if you step on it, but it will also hurt the people around you, your loved ones. It might, baka malabas mo sa kanila, diba? It might really come out in uglier ways. So you do not need to pretend that everything is fine because it's not. You have to really acknowledge, these are the feelings I am feeling right now, and embrace them as part of the process. So mindfulness is also related to how you regulate your feelings, how you let yourself feel. So it's good to understand yung mga emotion regulation tendencies natin in the context of attachment. So securely attached individuals, sorry, securely attached individuals are more likely to have more efficient emotion regulation because that's something that they really learned from their caregivers early on. However, the problems na it comes from pag may insecure attachment tendencies ang tao. So, like what was previously discussed, mga avoidant people, they tend to block or inhibit these negative emotional states such as fear, anxiety, sadness, shame, and guilt, because they associate those feelings with feeling vulnerable or feeling like they invested in their past relationship. So they don't want to feel that. They don't want to be too close or dependent to their partners. And that's why after the breakup, they also have difficulty seeking support from outside sources because they really tend to inhibit their feelings. On the other side of the coin naman, we have anxiously attached people. So they're more likely to really exaggerate these feelings and perceptions of threats. They cling to very, very negative beliefs and thinkings. So they engage in a lot of self-blame and really focus on their anxiety. So they're more than likely overemphasizing yung sense of neediness nila so that they can elicit some form of attention or care from other people. So that's why if you know na you have a tendency to lean more on a specific emotion regulation, you have to practice mindfulness in that context or in that tendency. So for those with more avoidant tendencies, it's good to practice mindfulness, like even just as simple as taking the time of the day to let yourself feel or think without trying to stop it. This can promote daily check-ins with one's emotions so you can label it better. It will be clearer for you what kind of thoughts or emotions you're experiencing. And you have to really seek for support. You have to build trust with your close relationship through practicing emotional expressions more openly in ways that you're comfortable with at first. You can't go straight to like talking about your feelings because for some people, physically impossible talaga siya. So you have to start slow and steady. Maybe it could be as simple as writing down what you feel, like writing a letter to yourself, or finding creative outlets to release them. And eventually, it might lead to you gradually sharing, even just as simple as, oh, I'm kind of feeling sad today. You don't have to over explain, you don't have to justify. Even something as simple as that to a loved one or a close other that you treasure can be enough sometimes for you to feel a little bit okay. And for those with a more on the anxiety side of things, you're more than likely to be more easily triggered. Sorry for the lack of the better term. It's easier for you to feel that pain instantly. So you have to take your time to really recognize what are your triggers or patterns that may make you feel too anxious to the point of doing something, more or less insane. So you also mostly have a very negative view of yourself. So that's something you have to challenge consistently. You have to take a pause, think about it, and try to find evidence against it or for it. Okay? And practicing emotional expression of attachment needs. So usually nga problems with more on anxiously attached people is they excessively seek for support or reassurance, and to the point where it can be misconstrued talaga as demanding na. So on the end of the close others, if you become too demanding or if hindi healthy yung way mo to seek support, then of course that will drive them away further. So it is also your responsibility to find ways to practice how you can express these needs more healthily, especially in the support seeking side. And of course, you have to develop a secure base through a strong support system. So you have to really find your close friends and family and cling to them. Okay? And then of course, we also have very hackneyed na sometimes palaging repeated, but it's repeated because it's true. You really have to take care of yourself emotionally and physically. So, physical, of course, it's really important. Very self-explanatory. I mean, you guys saw yung mga common emotional and physical reactions, diba? It can really lead you to being sick. And that's why you have to take extra steps to take care of yourself. But you also have to nourish your emotional health. How can you do that? By limiting contact, distracting yourself, seeking support, journaling sometimes, therapy if you have the means. I'm sure you guys have wonderful counselors who will be able to really help you navigate if you just reach out, diba? And daily affirmations also. So yung mga self-talk mantras or following affirmation pages on social media, some people are very cynical people. They don't really like yung mga direct affirmation posts on Instagram like, oh, you are your own friend or you have to be a friend to yourself. Some people, they like yung mga medyo memes pages that are affirmation like this one that I posted here, yung daily affirmations pages. It's post ironic, kind of funny, sometimes dark. If that's what it takes to surround you or surround yourself with affirmation, then so be it. Sabi nga nila, Filipinos are the #1 supporters or users of social media. So why not just surround yourself with positive things also in your social media pages? So that's for the self-care stuff. And the last one, which I would say is really one of the most important one, is to rebuild and expand your social circle. So again, if you lost a close friend or you lost a romantic partner, that person was your security or safety blanket. That person was more likely one of your huge or biggest sources of support. And that's why it's important for you to replace to some degree that social support. Get it from more avenues, from more sources, from your friends, families, other people. They can provide you with the comfort, the assistance, and a sense of belonging. personal example, when I went through something similar, I talked to a friend I haven't spoken to in a while because kinamusta niya ako sa Instagram. And of course, I was ranting to her, I was venting. Next thing I know, after like 1 hour of talking to her, may kumatok na lang sa bahay, may nagpa-deliver na pala siya ng Gino's oven pizza. So I was broke during that time, so I couldn't afford that. So those little things that your friends can do for you can really come a long way to your healing. They can not only provide you with emotional support, but also practical support. And on your end naman, of course, for avoidantly attached people, this might be a little more difficult, but you have to really be open. You have to communicate openly to really foster a more positive perception of support. So there's actually this one study that interested me about this concept. So in this experiment or study, they divided people into two groups. So the group one was asked to talk about the recent breakup. Group two naman was tasked to suppress it, to not really talk about it that much. So they observed people from both groups, and they found that after 9 weeks, even just something as simple as talking about it with your close others showed reduced loneliness, reduced intrusive thoughts, and fewer we words. What does that mean? So if you use fewer we words when you're talking about it, that means, di ba, may detachment na nang nangyayari. Pwedeng may acceptance na. There's less attachment na to the ex-partner or the ex-friend. So this can really heal you. Talking about it with your close others can really, to some degree, fast track your healing. So those are more on the practical side or strategies that you could do during those few hell weeks or months wherein it's hard for you to really process things. Now let's go to the last part of this presentation. So how can you learn from that experience? How can you let go? So for some people, I just added this because minsan some people are clinging on to hope that maybe we can be friends, after the breakup, or maybe if not a romantic breakup, if a platonic breakup, maybe we can be friends again in the future, someday when we're both a little more mature. So relationship dissolution may mean a broken contract, but can also lead to a new form of relationship. But there are some factors that can really affect if the past relationship could lead to a new form of friendship. Okay, what are these factors? So the first one is high relationship satisfaction. If you guys were able to meet each other's expectations of closeness, of intimacy, of communication, then you're more likely to have, a good perspective of each other. There's also the amount of investment. So it could be something tangible, like maybe you opened a bank account together, or you adopted a puppy together, or it could be something intangible also, such as you spent a lot of time together na. You've been together for 3 years. So yung amount of this investment is also important. Quality alternatives to the relationship. So maybe during that relationship, you also have other friends. Both you and your partner have your own social circle that are not necessarily connected to each other. And both of you are supportive of each other to hang out with them. So for example, you don't even have to ask your partner permission to go out with your friends, and vice versa. So you have quality and accepted alternatives to your relationship. And of course, pre-relationship friendship. So it's like you were friends first and lovers second. So those are the factors that can affect, or that can help make someone more likely to redefine that past relationship into a newfound friendship after the breakup. But of course, if this isn't possible, then we have to find ways to really start to heal and let go. So what are these ways? First one, if that is a really important thing, is you have to set boundaries because you don't want to be triggered by the presence of your partners. Why? Setting clear boundaries is crucial because it can give you the space to heal, to process it without um without the presence of that person who hurt you, and to move forward. So what are these? This may involve limiting contact, avoiding social media interactions, and refraining from discussions about past relationship. No, medyo parang paradoxical. It's like you have to talk about the breakup, right? But then this one advice is saying refrain from discussion. So it's more of what you think is best for you at that moment. So do you feel like this is good for you to talk about right now? If so, then you go ahead. If it's not, then you don't. But it's really more on what works for you during that moment. So in the context of social media, since more likely we live in a world na ito na talaga yung number one form of connection natin, research would say that there are actually some instances where it's good to stay connected with an ex-friend or whatever on social media. So if you had a cordial breakup, it's mutually decided, or you promised each other that you're gonna stay friends or whatever, research actually suggests that it's okay for you to stay friends on Facebook, or follow each other still on Instagram. Why? Kasi it lessens the mystique of, like, what are they doing right now? I wonder if they have a new partner, or I wonder if they have a new best friend. So if you stay connected with them, you kind of know what they're doing, and it lessens that mystery. Sometimes when there's the mystique or the mystery of, I just wanna know what they're doing, it kind of forces us sometimes to stalk them, diba? But if you stay friends on Facebook or follow each other on IG still, then you don't have to have that air of mystique or curiosity. You can just be updated with each other's life. But if the breakup was difficult, maybe unexpected on one side, or if there's still that desire for reconciliation, blocking or unfriending is best, because this will help you minimize emotional distress and prevent unwanted contact and surveillance. So again, this is just research advice. At the end of the day, you know what's best for you, and take it as you will, or as you want to, or need to, rather. So of course, sometimes the urge to contact them or to stalk them is too strong. So what can you do to stop that train of thought? Sometimes it's good to just distract yourself altogether. Consume yourself with behaviors or activities that will make you stop thinking about it, that will not give you that extra space to think about it. So what are consuming activities that you can do? That depends on you. Maybe immerse yourself in activities or hobbies that you can enjoy, such as playing a game, whatever game that may be, like Valorant, something that really makes you think or uses your entire brain to really think, like mga strategy games, for example, para mas stop yung train of thought mo. Or maybe for creative people, painting or drawing or practicing music. Number two is to socialize. Sometimes, as hackneyed as this advice sounds, maybe it's really good for you to go outside, touch some grass, and spend time with your friends, Maybe ask a friend to hang out in a cafe with no Wi-Fi. Or maybe you could ask a friend on a study date where you two have to be both busy, so you don't have to think about them. And if you don't have a friend to hang out with at that time, perhaps you can do physical exercise. You have to release that tension, release that energy somehow. To have an outlet to do that, and journaling or meditating. So you really have to find ways to stop the train of thought and occupy that area of your brain that makes you want to reach out to them, basically. Okay? And then we also have the second advice. So, you set boundaries, but maybe sometimes you notice there's still a certain hole in your life, a certain hole in your daily routine. And that makes sense. A breakup is a loss, not only because of the relationship in itself, but you lost a best friend, you lost a partner, na disrupt yung routines mo, your plans, dreams, and hopes and goals that you shared with your partner. And suddenly they're gone. The people used to do daily mundane things with they're gone. So breakups often mean a big change in your routine. And this sudden disrupted change can really feel overwhelming. That's why you have to create new routines, small steps first, so that it can pave the way for you to have that structure, that stability during a time of uncertainty, and really make you feel more grounded. So when you're creating new routines for yourself, it can also provide you with a newfound sense of purpose, and you have to really start small first. 'Di ba nga kasi that sudden disrupted change in your life is overwhelming. You don't want to start difficult agad, like difficult mode. You have to start small and gradually incorporate whatever new routine that you found works for you, such as, establishing a consistent sleep schedule. Siguro before, you stay up all night to talk to your ex best friend or your partner. Now maybe you can have a better sleep hygiene. You can sleep a little earlier. Or maybe in the mornings you used to go on a cafe shop and before you start your day, but you can't do that anymore, right? So what can you do? Replace that. Maybe you can go outside, run, or go to the gym, or maybe revisit your old friends or hobbies. Those little things can really go a long way. On your end, what you have to do is just be patient and really celebrate your baby steps. And there's also that concept of sayang naman. You always hear that. Some people just stay in their relationship because they don't want to waste the 2 years or 3 years or whatever that you spent with that person. You invested so much, whatever, time, effort, money, emotions, that it feels like it's gonna go to a huge waste if you break up. So what do? You postpone it. I won't break up with them this month because it's February, etc., etc. So it's like you're sticking with a really unfulfilling relationship for like 3,000 days past its expiration date. But there's the concept in, I think this is economics or business. It's called the sunk cost fallacy. And in the context of failed relationship, you just basically just want to stay in a relationship because you don't want your investments to go to waste. But the thing is, humans have this tendency to overestimate, as you can see here, the significance of feeling a large amount of pain today and underestimate the significance of a feeling small amounts of pain over years and years. So it's something to ponder on, right? Like, would it be better to stay in this relationship for another 10 years only for it to eventually crumble, since it's really unfulfilling for the both of us? Or would it be good to break up now, kind of rip the bandage off, experience that really painful process of recovery and healing, but eventually find yourself again and have a clearer view of what you want in the future, and have the opportunity also to find a better, more fitting relationship for you. So if you're staying in an unfulfilling relationship, you're basically robbing yourself of the opportunity to find someone who really would work out well for you. So that's sunk cost fallacy. And that perhaps one of the most beautiful things I have ever read in research is the concept of post-traumatic growth. Actually, ngayon ko lang din to na-research. This wasn't a part of my thesis, but I should have added it. So as you can see here, post-traumatic growth is the phenomenon of growing after a traumatic event. It's something that can bring about positive change or a new sense of strength. And as you can see in the picture, it says there, according to research, one one is significantly more likely to experience post-traumatic growth, around 66%, after a traumatic event than to develop post-traumatic stress disorder, 25% of adults. So it really shows that our minds and bodies have a natural inclination towards recovery and healing. So our bodies are designed to have mechanisms to protect us, basically. And what you have to do on your end is to just be patient and let your mind and body do its work. So how does this post-traumatic growth happen? You know, what's the process or the mechanism behind this? So usually if you go through a traumatic event like breakups, especially kapag there's infidelity talaga, because a lot of studies about this is focused on more on breakup because of infidelity or divorce because of infidelity. So of course, those kinds of experiences can really shatter your core beliefs. What are these core beliefs? You know, I am worthy, I am lovable, I deserve good things, I have to be, you know, me and my partner are a match made in heaven. You know, those beliefs, it's gonna be shattered. And that's going to trigger intense self-reflection. So at first, of course, the shattering of the core beliefs goes hand in hand with the common physical and emotional reactions that I talked about. This can disrupt functioning for a while. So that's the hell week. That's the most painful period of the breakup. But after a while, you know, those self-reflection, those intense rumination or self-reflection, it becomes deliberate, it becomes purposeful. So eventually, that rebuilding of your core beliefs can actually lead you to have a way stronger and more positive core belief that incorporates that traumatic experience, such as the breakup. So what do these core beliefs, new core beliefs, have now? So perhaps, you know, it clarified your needs. What do you actually need in a relationship? What do you actually want or desire? Or what is your preference? You know, maybe you don't want someone who's in the medical field because they're too busy, you know? It clarifies what you really need and want. And it will make you more ready, not just for your future partner, but also for yourself. Okay? So what are the signs that post-traumatic growth is happening in your life? So we have positive growth in your personal traits. You have greater self-confidence and independence, better communication skills. You have good relationships, or your quality of relationships really improved with your friends and family. You're able to focus more in school or work. Baka naging dean's list ka pa. I'm not sure kung ano yung term sa Miriam, but you know, you were able to focus better. And you were able to really clarify your expectations for future romantic partners. So this post-traumatic growth can actually lead you to find meaning or purpose from that splitting. So one of the most beautiful things I have read in a really technical research is here. The stress is considered necessary to fuel a search for meaning. You know, you have to experience all those things for you to come out stronger on the other side, for you to actually find meaning and purpose. Because if you didn't go through that distress, if you didn't experience that grief, then most likely you didn't process it. You didn't actually reflect on it. So this distress can really pave the way for you to find closure within that relationship. And you do that by, again, giving yourself the space to grieve, to grow, to stay active, and invest in your other relationships. So this is the end of my talk. If I have to summarize everything that I just said, it's to practice self-patience, self-compassion, and you really have to invest more in your social connections. So this will help you find your way back to yourself again, and you will really rebuild. So recommended listen, guys, if you want a good song that kind of, this isn't too cheesy naman siguro. One of the best songs I've ever listened to in the context of breakups is like Time Will Be the Healer by Glenn Hansard. If you guys have the time after this, you could give it a listen. And I feel like there's a healing property in this song personally. So that's about it. Thank you for listening. And these are my emails or LinkedIn if you want to reach out in the future.
Thank you so much, Miss Zari, for that very wonderful and insightful talk. Also, just to add to what Zari said, she and I went to college together, and it's such a full circle moment to finally have her with us here. Just to also share, last year when Zari and I went to PopCon together, both of us opened up about our respective breakups. Zari had gone through a romantic breakup, whereas I, on the other hand, was going through a friendship breakup. And so, just to summarize everything that Zari said, it's so important that we lean onto our communities and really find ways to connect with others and talk to them about what we're going through. And especially now that we're coming out of the pandemic, it's so important that we learn to trust others, even if it feels shameful, even if it feels embarrassing, because it's through reaching out to other people that we are better able to find our support system. What I especially liked about Ms. Zari's talk is the 5 domains of post-traumatic growth. I only learned that today, that there's actually an operationalized definition of what it means to grow after something very traumatizing. I think a lot of young people understand how scary it is to bounce back after something so emotionally draining and distressing. But it's in knowing these signs, a new sense of possibility, seeing value in our relationships again, appreciating life again, that we are better able to understand how we're actually doing now. So thank you again, Miss Zari. We're now
Thank
opening
you.
the
Thank you, Miss
floor for
Dani.
questions. Earlier this week, we opened the Google form for students to send in their questions in advance because this topic seems to be very in demand. So we'll go first with some of the questions that we've chosen from our students who sent in advance. But if you would like to share your insights in the chat box, if you'd like to ask any more questions, if gusto niyo pang humabol with asking questions to our speaker, please feel free to do so because we have about half an hour left. So sulitin na natin. Okay, Miss Zari, I think I sent the questions, but I'll just
Yeah.
random para lang may surprise. May
Okay.
okay. So this was sent, most of these questions were sent in anonymously. And since not every question will be answered this afternoon, we will be collating everything else and sharing a document that Ms. Zari will write her answers about, just so that everyone gets a chance to hear what Ms. Zari has to say. So the first question is, this was sent in anonymously. When I was in high school, I handled breakups by breaking up during summer break so that I won't see them for a while and I could adjust. I want to confirm if this was a smart move or a healthy way to break up. Also, how do you deal with the frustrating feeling that you only have wasted time on someone as it did not end with your goal, such as a longer relationship or even marriage? I hate the idea of being in a relationship again because I dwell in the feeling of wasted time and embarrassment of the whole thing not working out. So that's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah. Let's unpack that. Okay. Siguro yung sa first part, yung if that's a smart move or a healthy way to break up, I think ultimately that's something that the person who sent that could answer, because you know, if ultimately it did help you, in your healing process in the long run, it made you feel better, you didn't really hurt someone too much along the way, then maybe it is. Ultimately it's you someone messaged, can you pin, okay, ayun, yeah, ultimately, this is something that that person could answer with a little self-reflecting, palagi na lang dun mapupunta. And for the second one, I think I was able to discuss this a little in my talk, yung concept of feeling frustrated because of, yun nga, it's like you wasted so much time and investments, di ba? Nawala yung return of investments, kumbaga, on your end. But again nga, the concept of sunk cost fallacy is you may have invested a lot of time or effort in this relationship, but ultimately it just didn't work out, and that's okay. If you stayed in that relationship, again, it's like you're robbing yourself of maybe your next relationship will work out better. Maybe that's your long term. Maybe that could lead to marriage. Um, would you rather really spend like another 5 years with the wrong person, or kind of rip the bandage off nga and break up with them, go through the pain, and then eventually just, find the right person for you now that you already know what is best for you? Yun nga, yung concept of post-traumatic growth, that traumatic experience. I mean, not every breakup naman is traumatizing. Some are just really distressing, but that distressing experience can maybe shatter your core beliefs, but it can clarify what you really need in the future. Yun nga, maybe hindi mo pala gusto to date an artsy person, or whatever, diba? So yeah, don't get too hung up on the concept of wasted time, because you learned from that relationship, and you will be able to carry over what you learned from the past relationship to your next ones, wherein parang may better quality na, because clarify nga what you want and need. So that's it.
Okay, thank you, Miss Zari, for answering that very comprehensively. I do agree that you don't have to dwell so much on wasted time, because we're young. Like, sasama ko na rin tayo dito. We're young. we're young adults here, and we're trying to figure out who we are. And I think either you get what you want, or you learn from your experiences. And even these failed relationships, kahit na they don't end the way that we wanted them to, kahit na it didn't end in marriage, or it didn't end in our ideal setup, or they're still in our lives, I think there has to be some gratitude towards the ability to understand that, okay, it didn't work out, but these are things that I've learned about myself, and I wouldn't have learned all these things if I didn't go through it. It's not to say that you have to be in pain to learn things. It's more of, okay, I'm in this situation, what can I do? Either I ignore, I repress, I suppress, or I just accept it for what it is and try to live with that. Okay.
Exactly.
Yes. So we have a question in the chat. This is a direct message from me, and I
Okay.
want to address this. Genuine question. Is the rule of thirds, particularly the 3-month rule, a reasonable or trusted measure to validate the length of moving on, as well as in looking for a new partner? Okay, while you think of your answer, I just want to say that the 3-month rule was popularized by the rom-com One More Chance, starring John Lloyd Cruz and Bea Alonso. That's the reason why it's so popular in Filipino culture.
But I didn't even
Yeah,
know.
it was through that movie that a lot of people started to think na, 3 months. Because like Basha didn't honor the 3-month rule apparently. But yun, random
I
fact.
really thought that came from like a research, or like a random
No.
research. I was like, wow,
Like
they were able
locally,
to measure that.
the 3-month rule came from that
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think, again, as hacknight as it sounds, this really depends on that person. Like, you cannot set a timeline for yourself, because you're setting yourself up for possible future frustrations if you don't meet that expectation na, by 3 months, then move on na ako. What if in reality, you haven't? What if in reality, you just suppressed your emotions pala? You didn't really process it. So, maybe for some people that the 3-month rule works, but ultimately it's really dependent on the person and their healing process, and their self-reflection also. Yeah. I don't think you should really set the timeline for that at all. Kasi nga, you know, what if you didn't meet that expectation, and then you're just gonna be like frustrated with yourself. Baka you blame yourself for not reaching that deadline you set, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like it's only reasonable to set a deadline if you know you're able to achieve it. But it's such an
Exactly.
emotional journey to grieve the loss, the ending, the potential, everything else. And I'm also reminded of that How I Met Your Mother episode where they talked about how long it takes to get over someone. And everyone had varying opinions. Like see Robin, I think she said exactly 10,000 drinks, no matter how long that takes. Or si Lily, I think she talked about how you grieve half of the relationship. Like that, kunyari, you were together 2 years. So you spend 1 year, kalahati nun, like grieving the whole thing. So it really depends on everyone. And that's also data that we can get from relationships that end. Now, okay, it didn't work out. At least now I know this is how I act when something ends. And I could use it as future reference in case it happens again. Like, of course, we'd rather it not happen again, but you can never really tell how life unfolds, and so it's always
Yeah.
important to be prepared. Okay, we move on to the next question. Is it encouraged to have exposure towards the opposite sex, especially if you've been in an all-girls school all your life? I fear that if there won't be exposure, there will be this susceptibility of women with how men ridicule easy women. So this is for our all girls school graduates who are, I don't know, aiming to be in heterosexual relationships. So what do you have to say about this?
Oh, well, personally, I really grew up sa co-ed. So, um, wow. Okay, let me think about this. Of course, at the end of the day, it's good to have generally like an exposure to the opposite sex because that's more reflective of the real world. In the future, you're really going to, if once you start working, you start um your career, you have to really reach out to people, whether they are women, men, or non-binary or whatever. So, those experiences can equip you with the readiness to interact with them smoothly. So yeah, in that sense, of course, it is encouraged to have certain exposure. The second one, yung fear because with how men easily ridicule women, maybe it's good to have a certain type of exposure muna before you go into the dating scene agad. Kasi dating can be scary, especially if you're not used to the tendencies of the opposite sex, for example. For example, pwedeng you expose yourself muna through deliberate ways like clubs, organizations, whatever na may shared goals kayo. Para yung interactions mo with the opposite sex has a baseline to it. You don't have to start from scratch, kumbaga. And there's a shared purpose in what you guys are doing. So maybe start with that kind of exposure. But ultimately, again, it can be scary, and there are a lot of like potential anxieties that could arise out of that. And that's why you start with the safe zone first now, which is that. But again, you have to be mindful also of your boundaries. Talaga. If you feel like your boundaries are kind of being torn apart or whatever, trust your instincts, and always remain respectful to yourself and to others. So yeah, I guess my short answer is yes, I do encourage that, but uh in gradual ways. Kumbaga. I don't know, Miss Dania,
Yes,
since you have experience
as a
all girls.
laking all girls, I think I can answer that. So
Yeah, you can answer that
I
better.
came from an all girls school, grade school to high school. So it was
Mhm.
when we were in college. na I got to encounter the male species then. So it was a weird transition. It was a weird experience for me in a sense na may blockmate tayo nagka-crush sa akin nun. And I was so weirded out by it. Because I didn't like him at all. And so I didn't know how to react or respond to that. But that gave me an idea of how, okay, this is how guys behave. And through the years, I've been able to develop male friendships. And I think Miss Zari was right in that sense. Now, you really have to ease your way into it. Don't jump into interactions with men with the belief, okay, I want this guy to be my boyfriend. Like,
Yeah.
it can really hamper how you show up in relationships. Parang you might put up a front, even especially if you put that expectation right away. So again, like your friendships talaga, especially your friendships with women, should be the standard for how you should expect men to behave in your life. I think decentering men and making sure that, yung standards niyo for a good relationship comes from the friendships in your lives is a good way to navigate the opposite sex. If you're attracted to men, that is,
Yeah.
like there are a lot of issues that we face, like gender specific issues, but I think if it's your goal to be in a relationship with a man, you know, there's hope. Just have to be slow about it and take your time.
Yeah.
But that was a really good question. I think we have time for maybe 2, 3 more. We'll get from our list of questions here. How do you cope when your boyfriend is your only friend and you've gotten very dependent on him for everything, especially for emotional support? It's just hard when he's busy and I don't have anyone else to talk to because I also find it hard to develop friendships in school.
Hindi, ayan na yung anxious attachment that I talked about, diba? It's like you have the negative view of the self and a positive view of others kind of thing. So, well, first, I hope that the talk kind of open your mind about the concept of attachment kasi that kind of behavior talaga papasok siya dun sa anxiety attachment na sometimes you become really dependent on your partner. But what can you do? Well, the first step is always awareness. You at least you're aware of that behavior. The second part is you have to acknowledge na there is that kind of behavior is really pressuring also on the side of your partner. Because you're putting too much pressure, kumbaga if you're just really entirely emotionally dependent on them, then maybe ma-pressure sila to cut class just to, like those things. And on your end also, you limit yourself to only one source of support. When in reality, not no one person can fulfill all of our needs. Diba? Again, too much reliance talaga can lead to yung research ko nga, yung excessive reassurance seeking. And what I learned from that research is that excessive reassurance seeking can really lead to depressive symptoms in a person. Why? Because that kind of behavior pushes your partner further away. So the more you cling on to them excessively, the more that they will feel the pressure, like super external pressure, and then they will pull away from that, and that ultimately you'll feel rejected, you'll feel alone, and you're gonna most likely develop some symptoms of depression. So it can really backfire. And on your end, you have to, yung diniscuss ko, maybe you have to find your own avenues to fulfill your emotional needs. Maybe mindfulness, or find whatever, if you're an artsy person, then find your own creative outlets. And then yung sa second part, yung you have a hard time developing friendships in school. That's really normal and common. Not all people are blessed with the ability. I for one also experienced that when I started college. I really had the hard time. I remember si Kat told me that one of the first things I said to her I don't even remember this was I'm afraid of intimacy and connection. Like that's the first thing I told her, Danny. Like, I don't remember that. So I can really relate to that experience. But I found that what helped me really is to um find a small group of people muna talaga. Or if you have the opportunity to join organizations or clubs, whether it be formal or informal clubs or school, then take that chance, especially if it's within your line of interest. Kasi you automatically have something to talk about with those people. You know, for example, you're both in the movie society, then at the baseline you can talk about movies to those people, and it's gonna be a little easier for you to talk or to have or open conversations with those people. So yeah, that's my answer.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Zari. I am also reminded of our times in college also. I I've always been very introverted, and the only reason I made friends was because an extroverted classmate adopted me. Parang ganun yung mangyayari if
Yeah.
nahihiya ka. Like biglang may extrovert na lalapit sa'yo, tapos aampunin ka na, tapos yun na, like the friendship. And it's also nice to find hobbies, because when you have something to talk about or you have a shared activity with someone else, it's easy to develop friendships. And you have to cut yourself some slack. I think we're all shifting back to face-to-face classes na. We're not 100% back with face-to-face classes. So it's still a challenge, but try to make it a goal for you every week, like to talk to somebody new, to approach someone, even if it feels terrifying, because chances are they might be feeling the same. They might want to be friends with you as well. And just to echo what Ms. Zari said, you should not put all your eggs in one basket. Na parang your partner should not be your entire world. It's terrifying if you make one person your whole world. Because what if that relationship ends? What if that falls apart? It's gonna be tougher to navigate also if that ever happens. Okay, I think we're receiving a lot more questions. So some of these we will compile in a document so that at least everyone's questions get to be addressed. But we're down to maybe the last two questions. First is, how can I become a securely attached girly from an anxiously attached person? That's a good question.
Mhm. That's also a question I'd like to answer for myself. So, yeah, well, the good thing is that it's something that you can more or less navigate towards kasi actually nung una na discourage ako kasi sabi ni Bolby, relationships, attachment styles is something you carry from cradle to the grave. So at first I was like, wow, so poetic. So that means it's never gonna change. I'm forever gonna be an anxious person. But um there is a way. Yeah, there is to develop at least a more secure attachment. Then the first thing you have to do again is be aware, which is you're already in that step. The second is to always kind of recognize what are your attachment fears and needs. Kasi usually what fuels those behaviors of those reassurance, the hyper clinginess is your attachment fears. And usually what you're going to uncover is, yun nga, you're afraid to be abandoned, you're afraid to be rejected, you're afraid that they will never love you anymore after whatever. Um, so once you recognize your attachment fears, then you could finally start the process of like talking to yourself, doing some self-reflection. How can I also help myself fulfill this need? This need, yeah, of course, it can be fulfilled by some part of it can be fulfilled by our partners or friends, but ultimately there's also a huge part of it that you have to do for yourself. And another thing is to find a partner that understands you. I think that's a huge thing. Me personally, I'm with a person that's very securely attached, and he really taught me the balance talaga with my my attachment anxiety. It's something that we both he helped me work on through kindness and patience on his end talaga. So just find also a person who will understand you and will really have the patience to work through it with you. Kasi developing a secure attachment is kind of hard to do alone. It's something that kind of has to be validated. Is that the right term? Or yun nga, kasi attachment is a two-way street, diba? It's based on your interactions with other people. So yeah, just please find a partner who will understand you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Zari, for answering. And I think it's also important to keep in mind na it's not always the goal to shift or change
Mm,
to a secure attachment. Well, that's the goal. I think sometimes it's important to first get to know your current attachment style and get
yeah.
used to that first. Because if you try to force a change that you're not ready for, it's going to feel impossible. So really, you have to incorporate some baby steps into shifting very, very slowly into a more secure attachment style. If you don't have a partner right now, you can rely on your friends, your community,
Mm-hmm.
the places that you're part of, the people that you talk to. There's a saying that you're the average of the five people that you hang out with the most. So it could be people online if you have internet friends, people offline that you see in school, at work, internships, even these kinds of things. And finally, we are moving to our last question. So sorry if we aren't able to address your question right now. We're nearing the end of our program. But let me just pull up one final question from Kate. So how do I stand by the no closure is closure breakup and stop myself from contacting the person who hurt me? So first, what's your perspective on on closure? Do you think it's necessary or
Well, closure as in that involves contact with no, I don't think that's necessary. Closure is something that you could do for yourself also. Uh, little things can give you closure. So no, I don't think it's necessary to talk to your ex to find closure. Yeah. The second, ano yung first question?
how do you stand by it? Because this person says wala silang closure, they're not talking. And
Mm-hmm.
how does she keep herself from reaching out?
From reaching out. Uh, well, ayun nga, yung sa talk ko is, it's important really to set boundaries. Yun nga, find the ways that you could literally physically help you pull away from it, like distracting yourself nga. What else? I want to know your thoughts on this, Miss Dani. Like, I think kasi I
Well,
talked
I am
about
of
it.
the opinion na sige, like
Sige.
go clown around muna. Balik ka muna. Because
Oh, okay.
sometimes it takes going back for you to realize that parang
That makes
while you're
sense.
trying to do it, while you're trying to reach out, you're realizing, oh, this isn't what I want to do. Or I'm just very clouded, like my judgment is very clouded by nostalgia. Or parang,
Mm-mm.
oh, hindi, I feel like ganito yung mangyayari. Like, magkakabalikan kami. Like, it's so nice. But really, when you try to go back, you realize that you're the only one left waiting. Or, they could also be waiting, who knows? But sometimes kasi when giving a relationship another chance, both people have to change agad, like tremendously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Balikan kayo, or if you reach out or talk again, something has to change. And a lot of the time, young adults, like I'm also speaking from experience, like when it comes to these kinds of breakups, people usually reach out much earlier than they're supposed to. And it kind of just ruins that fantasy of, oh, things will work out again, or like we're kind of like that, we're kind of like Popoy and Basha, even if it's like not an ideal relationship to be in. And so ayun, I think, if it'll help you sleep better at night to try and see how that works out, to talk to your ex again and
Mhm.
that plays out, go ahead. Kasi I always believe na better oh well than what if. Na parang if
That
this
makes
what
sense.
yeah, if this what if like hangs over my head for such a long time, and I wouldn't be able to like live with myself if I never do it, then sige, do it. See how that turns out. Because either things work out your way or you learn from it. So that's my take. But wag na. Sayang sa oras.
Wag na. Sayang sa oras. Focus ka na lang.
Yeah, okay. So I think that wraps up our open forum. Thank you so much, Ms. Zari, for
Thank
entertaining
you
our
also.
questions. And for those who sent in their questions anonymously through our Zoom and through the Google form that was posted in your Canvas class for counseling and testing, we will be collecting more of these new questions for Ms. Zari to answer. She's answered already the earlier ones, and we'll be posting that document for you to read and go through as a reference within the week. So again, thank you so much, Ms. Zari, for being here with us, for spending your afternoon with us. And with that, I would like to now call on Dr. Chavez to present our speaker with a certificate of appreciation.
Okay. Miriam College HEU Guidance and Counseling Office presents this Certificate of Appreciation to Zarina Balbuena, MA, RPM, for sharing her time and expertise as a resource speaker on the topic Growing Up and Out, Surviving a Breakup. Given this 26th day of November 2024, Miriam College. Signed, Maria Lourdes Chavez, and Mr. Jose B. Maribay. Thank you so much, Sari. I really
Thank
enjoyed
you
this
so much din
afternoon
po,
with you.
Doc. Thank you so much po. Thank you,
Thank you
entire
talaga.
Miriam community,
Yeah.
for listening and participating also po.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Doc Chavez, for presenting the certificate. Before we conclude, may we invite everyone to turn on their cameras for a photo op with our speaker. So if your bandwidth allows, kindly turn on your camera so that we could take a screenshot, take a photo with our speaker. Okay, just waiting for our students to turn on their cams. All right, I think we only have 2 pages. 2 pages because konti lang nag-on ng cam. Okay, kindly smile. 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, next page. Okay, 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, just 2 pages lang because the rest are, I think, they're kind of shy. So again, we'd like to thank everyone so much for being with us this afternoon for our enrichment talk. Kindly fill out the evaluation form that will be posted in the chat box, and you can scan the QR code that is made available on your screens. So before the closing prayer, can we share the QR code for this? Okay, so again, for those who missed it, please inform your classmates who were not able to attend this afternoon that this meeting has been recorded, it will be uploaded, and it will be made available for a limited time only so that it will be in fulfillment of your requirements with the guidance. So again, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Ms. Zari, for being here with us. And with that, to conclude this afternoon session, I would like to call on again Ms. Nea Monton to lead our closing prayer.
Let us all remember that we are in the holy presence of the Lord. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Gracious God, thank you for this event. Bless each person who took time to be here and protect us throughout the week. We pray that we began today come into fruition and bless our beloved institution, Miriam College, and as we work towards our shared vision, may the work we do make your love more visible in the world. With the Blessed Mother, we ask this through Christ our Lord. Miriam of Nazareth, teach us your ways and lead us to Jesus. Amen.
Thank you, Nea. Once again, here's the evaluation form. Kindly take note of this, and we will see you around. Thank you, everyone, so much, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Permission to leave. Okay.
Congrats,
Thank you.
Larry!
Thank you
Thanks,
so much
Sari.
for your time po.
Sa
It's been a pleasure.
uulitin. Sa
Yes
uulitin.
po, definitely
Face na
po.
soon.
Okay.
Face to face na po soon.
Yes, face to face. All right. Thank
po.
you.
Thank you so much po. Sige po, permission to leave na po.
Sige.
Okay, done na tayo, Doc.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Belle. Thanks, Nea and Harriet. Thank you.